Hello everyone, it's the 17th of January 2025. I'm Gary Waterman, a former UK police constable, and I have irrefutable evidence since 2022 of international government fraud. And we're going to be looking at how this relates to supermarkets. I have done a couple of live streams in relation to this, but I'm going to do an actual video now. And this is very important, particularly for the farmers that are now protesting. In fact, they're protesting today by blockading some supermarkets. So I've been told that's what the plan was going to be. And I've been in touch with a couple of farmers who have fairly significant following, including Mark the Bowler Hat farmer. So these are screenshots taken from the Companies House records and just pasted into a document so that you can see the flow of evidence and the evidential links through those records, which means you can use it as a template and verify and corroborate everything. Now, why is this so important? Well, it's very important because it's international government fraud by our governments, a crime, okay, to enable them to use the food chain to manipulate, exploit, and even very sinisterly potentially depopulate their nations through the food chain. It's very, very serious, very, very worrying, and it is criminal, don't forget. So first of all, we're going to look at Lidl Great Britain Limited Company, which is a company that you can find. Look on Companies House and you'll be able to see it. And here it is. It started in 1993. And remember, they'll have lots and lots of companies associated with Lidl's. This gives the ability for them to launder money and move money through the company accounts. And that could, if they wanted to, include criminally obtained money as well. The banks are then being allowed to produce forged bank documents for the fraudulent entity companies to falsify their company figures and send the real money into offshore accounts. So, of course, this is completely criminal if that's what they're doing. I'm not saying Lidl's is, but I'm going to show you evidence here in relation to the forgery of the Companies House registration system. So here's Lidl Great Britain Limited Company. And you can see on the left, this is just a screenshot taken from the overview. On the right, this is the incorporation document. And on the bottom right of each page, you should be able to see the page number. So you can see the grey writing here, page 1 of 9 this is, so you can verify this. And you'll see that it says Swift Incorporations Limited. Now, those of you who follow my evidence will know this is very important. This is the exact same company, along with Jordan's Limited. And if we look further down, you can see Jordan's and Sons Limited on the incorporation for this Lidl's company that we used to start the company called Export Manor Freehold Limited, where I was removed from for refusing to file forged bank documents. Okay, and that was linked into the police, the NHS, the intelligence agencies, international banking fraud, international governments. But there was also there was overwhelming evidence to suggest international child trafficking linked into this system of fraud, as well as connections what appear to be the international drug trafficking trade, etc. And if you can imagine, this all links into the taxation system as well. So there's no motive to resolve the world's problems, okay, because they are actually assisting in the world's problems to then come along and say to the public, well, we've got this problem, we need more tax from you. And then they defraud the public through the taxation system. And the supermarkets allows the ability to manipulate and exploit the masses through the food chain. So that is a fraudulent company. Okay, and I'm going to show you why. So remember, you've got Swift Incorporations, but importantly, you've got Jordan's and Sons Limited on the incorporation document for that Lidl's company. I'm not too sure if it's got the date on here of the company. But the date it was incorporated, okay, was 1993. You can see here, 1993 on 10th of May. And just to confirm, it will also say it here. There you go. So they're saying incorporated 10th of May 1993. So Jordan's and Sons Limited. Now, this is a key company, Vistra Limited. If you look at Vistra Limited on the right here, you can check it. You'll see on the overview that it had a previous company name of Jordan's and Sons Limited from 1965 to 1996. So we know that company is the name on the Lidl's company, okay, on the incorporation document. But when you check Vistra Limited on the filing history, so you just need to go on the overview, you can see it here. Okay, it might be a horizontal instead of vertical if you're on a laptop. You can see you've got your different tabs here, and you can click on filing history, and then you'll be able to view the incorporation document, which we're looking at on the right here. And when you actually look on the incorporation document, it's Hammerplag Limited. Okay, but the date is still the 1965. Okay, so what the governments have done is had this document, okay, because it's controlled by the government. They control the register. They've had this document, which is a legal document, okay? It's a very important document when a company starts up their company. And they've attached it to this record, okay, this electronic record, put the right date, but forged the register. You can see they haven't put Hammerplag. They've put Jordan and Sons Limited. So they've lied. So they've deceived through this company and corporations. They're not registered lawfully and correctly. They should never have been allowed to trade. It is completely criminal, everybody. All right, so hopefully that's a good example of it. And the illegality continues through, because wherever you then use these company names, okay, where this register relates to it, so Jordan's Limited, Jordan's and Sons Limited, or Vistra Limited, okay, then the illegality continues. So you can see you've got Jordan's and Sons Limited. So it's a forged criminal organisation as well, because the illegality continues through the incorporation documents, and they would have absolutely have known this, everybody. This is not a mistake. I'm telling you 100%. The mens rea and the actus rea is complete, which is what you need in the crime. Okay, they've had the document. They've had a simple job of transferring the information across to the register. They've falsified the register deliberately, but put the right date. All right, so it's a crime, everybody, against humanity in relation to the food chain. So let's look at the next company, because it's not just Lidl's. So here we're searching Aldi. So on the left here, this is just showing the Aldi, going within company's house and searching Aldi, and it brings up all of these companies. And here you have Aldi Stores Limited on the right, which we're now going to be looking into. And it was started in 1988. You can see on the left-hand side there, in the middle. And we can see on their incorporation documents that they have a company called the D&D Law Agency. Well, that already links into my research to the international government fraud. And they know it's over because this company has just recently dissolved, even though it started a long time ago. I can't remember the date, actually. It might have been 1988. So they've just recently dissolved D&D Law Agencies as I'm exposing this fraud. Okay, so that is also linked to it. Now, here's Waitrose, and when you search Waitrose, you have various Waitrose companies, but they'll all be linked and connected via a director or for a same address. So, of course, they have a financial and legal, therefore, connection, and they can move money through the accounts you see for these companies. But also, remember, this is important. Use it to manipulate, exploit, and control people through the food chain, all right, through various means. On the left here, we've got a company that pops up, and you can see it's got an unusual name of just a number, 13474615 Limited. And it dissolved, and look when it dissolved, on the 27th of December 2022. Well, that was as I was starting to make inquiries with the fraud within my company. And it was around this time where I made the report to the authorities and the organisations that should be dealing with it. I then found out they were actually part of the crime and the fraud. And they changed their name. You can see on the bottom here. Okay, they changed their name as I was making inquiries within the company. So you can see on the left, its original name was Waitrose Partners Limited, and they changed its name. It changed its name on the 25th of July 2022. Well, that is not long after the acting chairman for the company that I was part of, called Export Manor Freehold Limited, resigned after I wanted to look at the bank documents. Okay, he resigned on the 13th of July, and they changed the company name to remove the accountability and liability. But in doing so, they have exposed themselves by trying to do that. On the incorporation document for the company, I found this quite interesting. You have an address in Cameroon, right, with an unusual name, initial shareholdings. So what they'll be using is, I'm not saying this is, but they have the ability to use false names, false addresses to hide the accountability and liability for what they're involved in as well. There's no verification by Companies House, and the government have deliberately done that because of this system of crime and fraud, so because it's worth trillions, okay? This is worth trillions of pounds through the taxation system, but also it's worth, it gives them the ability to exploit, victimise and control the public through deception, crime, and very sinister means. So what about Tesco's? Well, here's Tesco PLC, and we can see there it started in 1947. That in itself is a key date. Okay, that was the date of the Israeli and Arab War. Okay, well, actually, it was 1948, but the declaration by the United Nations was in 1947. And this all ties in with Israel, okay, what we're seeing here. Completely against our Creator, all right, against moral conscience and a rational state of mind. Supposedly these people believe in a good Creator, Well, here they are going against moral integrity and a rational state of mind or moral conscience, okay, which was given to us, I believe, by our Creator to protect us all. But anyway, here's Tesco PLC, 1947, created. They've put on the register that it only had one other name of Tesco Stores Holdings Public Limited Company on the left from 1947 to 1983. Well, that's a lie. Okay, that's a crime. They've committed a crime because on the incorporation document, you actually have the name Tesco Stores Holdings Limited. Okay, Tesco Stores Holdings Limited. Okay, it's not. They've put Public Limited Company. They've changed it. Okay, it's not a lawful company. It's a criminal organisation. It's a fraudulent entity company, and it's part of the food chain. And they would have forged the register. So what about Co-op? Now, I've added this since I've spoken about it in my live. In fact, I've added quite a bit more information to this document that we're going to look at. So Co-op, when you search that, cooperative stores, and put cooperative stores company's house, it comes up with Co-op Retail Limited. Here's Co-op Retail Limited, and it was incorporated in 2022. So what they've done is, as I've been exposing the fraud and making inquiries, they've set up other companies to try and hide what they've been part of. So you've got the 3rd of February 2022 when they started. On the incorporation document, you can see it's linked to the fraud, and I'm going to show you why. It's got a company that says Companies Made Simple. Okay, a division of Made Simple Group Limited. Now, this is very important in the fraud. This links to the World Trade Center disaster, and you'll see what they've done. So when you search Companies Made Simple on Companies House, okay, you get this record. So you can see Companies Made Simple. Started in 2004. Same address, okay, 20 Wenlock Road. You can see 2022 Wenlock Road on the incorporation document for that company. So we know it's going to be linked. And remember, 2004, very relevant because it was 3 years after the World Trade Center disaster, which is all tied in with this, okay? So here's Companies Made Simple Limited. We're looking at that company now. And on the incorporation document on the right, further down, you'll see a company called Westco Nominees Limited. Okay, this is on page 3 of 14, you can see there. So Westco Nominees Limited. So remember, the illegality continues through the document. So let's have a look at Westco Nominees Limited. So here's Westco Nominees. That's just searching within Companies House itself. And you can see the same address, okay? Dissolved in 2018. And when you go into Westco Nominees Limited, here's the actual overview. And you can see, although they've got a name on the register as Gold Quote Limited, they've committed very serious fraud and they've removed the company name. There's no company name. You can see this on the incorporation document. Okay, now remember, this is a signed document. So they're trying to tell us that somebody has signed this document without even having a company name on it. The chances are what they've done is they've realised the exposure that's happening. They've gone back into the record and removed the company name because they knew it would create a evidential link back to certain individuals and the accountability and liability. So they've removed that. And this is a very important company name, like I said, because it ties in with the World Trade Center disaster. And it also links into international child trafficking in a huge way via the National Council for Civil Liberties and linking into Silverstein Real Estates, which then links into Larry Silverstein, who purchased the lease for the World Trade Center building in July 2001, a few months before its collapse. So the whole thing is staged, okay? International government fraud, deception, crimes against humanity. It's pure evil, everybody. And the name here on this is very important. They use this name throughout, Ian Saunders. Okay, so it's an actual name that links this together. It's not just a company. That name is very likely made up, or it's a stolen identity, or someone that's deceased and they've stolen the identity of them to use, because I've found that's the case with other things. And you can see the company name, Waterloo Secretaries. Well, that's incredibly important because that links in throughout the fraud in a huge way. It also ties in with the Freemasons and back in to the intelligence agencies and the government organisations. And just to confirm, on another page of the incorporation document, that they've removed the company name from there. So it's a very serious, and remember, this is against their own legislation and laws, this crime. absolute criminal system in place to exploit and victimise everyone. So what about Spar? Okay, we all see Spar shops, don't we? Normally quite small shops within villages or whatever. So here's Spar shops. They've got the whole lot centralised as under this crime, okay, everybody. Spar UK Limited. When we look at Spar UK Limited, you can see that the register is correct, although they have, it looks as though they haven't got a space there. So it actually, because this really matters. Although this seems petty, if they add a dot, they add a space, change a space, put a comma, then the document isn't registered lawfully. But also on the incorporation document, you can see Jordans and Sons Limited. Okay, so there's no space between the limited, so that'll be a false register by doing that. But also you can see it's already linked to the international fraud via Jordans and Sons Limited on the incorporation document anyway. Let's look at ASDA. So when you search ASDA on the left within Companies House Records, and please verify and corroborate this. You don't have to trust me. Trust this evidence. Trust the government's reaction or inaction. All government organisations are now ignoring this. Okay, they're not even responding other than phoning me to say, Gary, can you please stop talking about one person in particular, Deborah Fleming, who was within my company. Well, I'm sorry. No, I'm not going to, because you need to deal with this. And they're not, because they know it's over. Okay, all police forces are ignoring it. 650 members of Parliament now are completely ignoring it. People are resigning left, right and centre. Companies are dissolving all over the place. They know it's over. Even HMRC companies are dissolving, and intelligence companies are dissolving, which links the Russian, UK and monarchy via this international fraud. Also to weapon systems. Anyway, going back to this. So when we search ASDA, you've got ASDA Group Limited company on the right there. So we're going to look at that company. Here's ASDA Group Limited. You can see on the right, it was incorporated in 1978, 7 years after the World Economic Forum. That's very likely relative and not a coincidence. And when you go on the incorporation document, the name they've used on it features throughout the fraud, Michael John Hope, and the address as well. They use various variations of the address of City Road and all of the other addresses that are on throughout this crime. But that's the same name that features throughout the fraud as well. So that's linked to the fraud. On the incorporation document further down on page 12 of 14, you'll see Express Company Registrations Limited. Well, that's already featured throughout the fraud, and that actually links into the international child trafficking ring via Jeffrey Epstein. Further down here, you've got Michael John Hope again, just to confirm. He's also further down on the document. So what about other countries and supermarkets in other countries? Well, this is a good example. I'm going to show you why this is international government fraud now. So on the left there, I'm just showing research in relation to the biggest supermarkets in the United States. And many of you probably heard this. Walmart is number one. So let's look at Walmart on the company house registration system. So on the right, I've just searched Walmart Companies House, and it's brought up Walmart Stores UK. Let's have a look at Walmart Stores. And it was incorporated in 1999, 2 years before the World Trade Center disaster. And it's a criminal, fraudulent organisation, guys. Okay, you can see on the incorporation document. Interesting name, actually, Mexico Reset Limited. Notice that? So just going back to the overview. Oh, I haven't shown it, actually. But at the bottom here, it's got a previous company name of Mexico Reset. Okay, now bearing in mind what we're talking with the child trafficking. Okay, there's a massive connection to Mexico, isn't there? You heard about the 300,000 children going missing? Or yeah, I think it is 300, or is it 3,000? I can't remember. In the Mexico borders in the last few months. So this is called Mexico Reset, its original name, and it's fraudulent. Okay, Jordans Limited. Remember, the illegality continues through. A criminal organisation, again linking to the food chain. On the right there, let's go in within the company now. So we're just going to look in the People tab, okay, which you can see near the filing history, and you've got Eleanor Duhan. And she links to ASDA companies. Okay, I've heard this before, that ASDA is linked to Walmart, and here you go, this confirms it. So we have a link back to ASDA. ASDA Holdings UK Limited, ASDA Supermarkets Limited. Here's ASDA Supermarkets Limited, and they were incorporated on the right there in January 2001. Okay, so what's that, 9 months before the World Trade Center disaster. So that it will all very likely tie in with that. Looking further down, you can see the company name changes. Okay, so their original name was Ever 1478 in January 2001. They changed it in April 2001, and then again they changed it. Okay, so they changed it to Asda Card Services Limited. You can see the next company up. They changed it to that in April 2001. They changed it again in June, okay, 2001, the month before Larry Silverstein purchased the real estate, the lease for the World Trade Center building, and then they changed it again then in June 2001. We've got that. And then they didn't change it again until 2011 afterwards. On the incorporation document, Eversheds is there. Well, that's very important. That links to the international fraud and ties in, it seems, a lot with the police organisations in relation to this. You can see that throughout my research on police companies. So here's Asda Employee Share Schemes Trustee Limited. Remember, it's the same director, so we're just looking at the other companies that part of. Here's Asda Employee Share Schemes Trustee Limited, a very old company. Okay, so they were started in 1906. On the incorporation document, you can see they were originally called Western Dairies Company Limited, in brackets according to them, and then changed their name in 1985. 1985 is a fairly significant year for various reasons. It ties in with the information about a particular murder in relation to all of this, but also it's the year that the Swifting Corporations Limited was started, and it's around the time that links in with evidence of missing nuclear weapons tying into all of this. On the left, within the Walmart company, okay, we've got a Denise Jagger, and look at when she was appointed before the World Trade Center disaster and then resigned afterwards, a couple of years either side. And on the right, she is linked to Reach PLC. Well, Reach is very important because Reach, remember, they've got full control over the media in relation to this. Okay, they've set this all up to try and prevent everything, all being exposed to exploit and victimise millions via this, and it will be worth, like I've said, trillions of pounds. So here's Reach PLC, just to confirm what it is. Between 1999 to 2018, is a British newspaper magazine and digital publisher. It is one of the UK's biggest newspaper groups, publishing 240 regional papers in addition to the national Daily Mirror, Sunday Mirror, Sunday People, Daily Express, Sunday Express. You can see this centralisation here, okay, everybody? Daily Star, as well as the Scottish Daily Record and Sunday Mail and the magazine OK. Okay, you can see the control, how they've done this. They've purchased up everything to exploit us all. On the right, the same director is linked to an Eversheds company, so there's no independency. You'll find there's connections back to those on their incorporation documents. They've even got accountants, obviously accountants, solicitors all tied up in this, and also audit companies. They've got the whole lot, well, they thought they had the whole lot covered, until people like myself with a moral conscience come along, guided by our creator, to try and save everybody, including these people, okay, because they can be saved. You might not believe that with the amount of corruption they're involved in, but I believe they can. The same director is linked to the British Olympic Association, okay. The Olympics are key to this. I've found multiple connections. Many of you will see satanic symbolism within the Olympic Games and their ceremonies, etc. On the right, within the Walmart company, I couldn't look at the incorporation, I don't think, but you've got Swifting Corporations Limited on the People record. Also go within there, you've then got First Choice Films 1 LLP on the right, and that's via Judith McKenna. That's an important company that is featured in the fraud, but I suspect it's linked to the child trafficking elements, I suspect. And you can see within the People record of First Choice that via Daniel R. Billy record, if it's a real name, date of birth 1971 for that person. I'm finding that's very, very relevant to all of this. It's the year of the World Economic Forum. And on the right, you can see they are linked to Ingenious Film Partners. Those of you who follow my evidence will know that that features all the way through the fraud. Whichever angle you come in from, you find these ingenious companies. That then ties in with Hollywood, okay? Because when you look at what Ingenious is, it's related to Hollywood movies, etc. On the left, there's First Choice, back into that First Choice film company, and you've got Graham Clempson. They're linked to German companies, or appear to be German companies. And this is important because it all ties back to the theatre and show of the wars and the Nazi deception. They were all, it appears, part of the same side of things to deceive the public, to exploit them and gain full control and victimise millions of people through the taxation system, but also exploit and victimise the children. So here's Dutch European partners. It's just to show one example. And look when they changed their name. So they were started in November 1999, changed their name in May 2001, not long before the World Trade Center disaster, and then they dissolved in 2010, so no other name changes. You can see also on their address, KPMG restructuring, and not only does that company also feature throughout the fraud, KPMG, but also this address, Salisbury Square, is used throughout the fraud. Massive deception. Same director is linked to another Dutch company, just to show you another one. I found that interesting because it's got in brackets US dollar fund. Okay, on the right, I just found this interesting. Bearing in mind there is without a doubt a spiritual war going on in relation to this. You've got Final Realm Limited. Final Realm. Here's Final Realm Limited, and started in 1999. Because these people, I believe, are seriously considering ending humanity. Okay, tying in with the faith groups. Well, it's not of our Creator. They have deceived humanity. It's against moral conscience. So they need to stop and do the right thing. There's only one salvation available to them and to the children and humanity and this planet, and that is through full disclosure of the truth, true repentance for what they've been part of, and all working together collectively to bring heaven on earth, and transparency, trust and truth, and also integrity and equality and fairness for everybody, rather than the division and disparity between the rich and poor, which is what they've been doing. On the incorporation document, if you follow my evidence, you'll know this name, Lucian James Limited. Also the company limited, that also features throughout the fraud. Back into First Choice Films Company, we've then got a link to a company called Hive Works Limited that dissolved as I'm exposing the fraud. You can see dissolved bottom right there, November 2023. And you can see here the name changes. Interesting, Hutchison. Well, that ties in with the threat from the directed energy into the radiation being emitted from our mobile communication systems, which is all part of this. You might have heard of Hutchison. It ties into the communication systems around the world. And you can see, look, when they changed the name. So in 1991, it became that. Okay, well, that's the year of the Gulf War. And then they changed it in July 2001. Well, that is when, as I've said, Larry Silverstein purchased the lease for the World Trade Center. There's no coincidence behind this. And then you can see they changed the names then to Orange. We're aware they're linked to mobile phones. And this director, just to confirm it, this director links to various mobile phone companies. Okay, you can see it's all centralized. The illusion of choice is given. But really, it's all centralised to exploit, victimise humanity through this criminal system. You've got EAE. You've also got the Federation of Communications Services Limited. I just thought I'd show those. Back into the First Choice Film Company. Just to confirm, those who follow my evidence know that this exact company does feature throughout and does link into the Hollywood side of things. So Ingenious Film Partners 2 LLP. And that ties in with the child trafficking. On the right, back to First Choice, you've got Nicholas Harrison. And then, remember, the banks are all involved in this. They'll be producing forged bank documents for the illegal entity companies. Most of the banks actually have fraudulent shell companies as well. I've got the evidence. So they're all part of this criminal organisation. Of course, the Rothschilds are massively involved in this, an international banking German company. But here's the Bankers Trust Nominees Limited, linked to that company via a director. And the address features throughout the fraud, 55 Baker Street. And then going into the same director, so that's just to show a bank connection. Now remember, there's a suggestion, there's a huge Egyptian pharaoh link in all of this. Well, here's some more examples of that. Pyramid Office, Pyramid Investments. Back into the First Choice companies, we've got Victoria Hastings. And then she starts linking into Hampshire companies. Okay, this is very important. Here's Mountbatten Hampshire Limited. Remember, the person that removed me or came in and called a meeting to remove me when they did, and they did, was a former NHS chief executive in charge of a £700 million budget and 10,000 staff, and she was in the NHS with covering Hampshire, Isle of Wight and Dorset. So this is a Southampton company. You can see the address there, top right. And on the incorporation document, you can see an address that is very notoriously linked to the fraud via an article. So if you type in Finchley Road fraud, I'm going to show it tonight actually on the live stream we're doing in relation to football clubs and how they link in with this. Type in Finchley Road fraud and you'll see this address is specifically mentioned as being linked to international government fraud, corrupt politicians, dictatorships around the world and mafia. Okay, and in fact, not only is that address named, but this name on the document is also featured in that article, Barbara Kahan. That appears to be a deceased person's identity that they're using to register. Into the same director on the right there, got links to Isle of Wight. Remember what I just said about Isle of Wight. It appears to be the child trafficking hub of the UK. So we now have a link to Isle of Wight. And they were appointed, look, 2024. So you can see as I'm exposing this, they're bringing in people, probably false names, linking into these companies to remove the real names. And the same director is linked to Edinburgh. So you've got the Edinburgh Investment Trust Public Limited Company. That's very important. Edinburgh. The information is suggesting, everybody, that that could be the real Jerusalem, tying in with the real Yeshua, or if you want to call them Jesus, but I think that was... Sorry about that, my phone just rang. So we have a link to Edinburgh. It's very important in relation to this. It's where the oldest Freemason, the world's oldest working Freemason lodge is based. And then the same director is linked to JP Morgan Asset Management UK Limited. Is JP Morgan Asset UK Limited. Asset Management UK Limited. It was incorporated in 1974, 3 years after the World Economic Forum. You can see the Fleming name all over it. This is very important. Remember, Fleming called the meeting to have me removed as a director because I was refusing to file forged bank documents to commit a crime. I refused to do it. You can see the company name changes around the World Trade Center disaster again. Within the same director is linked to Unicorn School Limited. That's very important because Unicorn Companies ties in with information evidence regarding Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and into child trafficking. In fact, a Unicorn Company dissolved. It's been going, I think it was since 2003, and then someone informed me about this in 2023. I think it was, might have been 24. I think one of those years anyway. As I'm exposing it, that whole company dissolved without notice. Back into the first choice company on the left there, you have Melville Mason. And he links to Experian Europe and Middle East Limited. Okay, Experian, you'll all know about Experian, I'm sure. It's the controlling and manipulation of people through the credit score system. It's all criminal and all fraudulent. Experian also has fraudulent entity companies. And this is their incorporation document. And you can see it appears to be a forged document. You can see on the in the middle of the screen there, you can see where you've got the lines, okay, where they've gone over the top of that with this company at a later date, over the top of the lines, changed it. You see that appears to be a forged document. Also, this would normally have lines going all the way across it. You can actually see them in the background there on the right, just on the right hand side there. You can see where the edges of the lines are. They've removed all of the lines and gone over the whole top. So that appears to be a forged document. Now, within first choice, this then ties in with the Archbishop of Canterbury, who's recently resigned. No doubt over all of this, it's without a shadow of a doubt. My research shows that Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, is linked into the same international government fraud, back into the Freemasons, appearing to link into the Vatican, and missing, not missing, but companies potentially linked to missing nuclear weapons. And here we have first choice on the left, and Michael Pawson links to Swansway Garages. And just to show you, here's Swansway Companies on the document for the Archbishop of Canterbury. You can see it, so it's actually coming in from John Smythe. If you research why he resigned, Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, you'll see that it was in relation to a person called John Smythe, potentially involved in child abuse, and there was a cover-up involving the Archbishop of Canterbury. Well, here's those Swansway Companies featuring in the research. And then I've just shown that it then goes into Ingenious Film Partners again from the research. We've already mentioned that previously in this document, and ties in with Lex Auto Lease, which is part of Lloyds Bank. And the bank documents that I acquired were forged Lloyds Bank documents. And this is just showing some... Okay. Hopefully that sort of makes sense. Right, going back down, I'm going to do all of this on one video because we've only got 4 more pages. So we also have a Charles company here. Read into that what you will, but without a shadow of a doubt, King Charles is connected very, very closely to the Fleming family, and information suggesting he may be an imposter. So here's the LC Charles Limited Company linked to the same director that we said about, and they are linked to a fraudulent entity company called the London Law Agency. And there's another Charles company as well. So if you search just on this, if you haven't seen my previous research, if you search the London Law Agency, you'll see London Law Agency, the in brackets. Go into there, you'll see the incorporation document does not match the register. They forged the register, and it actually says Ganvalon Motors on the incorporation document, a criminal organisation. So on the right, what about Russia? Okay, so here's a list of supermarket chains for Russia. And the research shows, just going back, you can see X5, okay, Perek Restock, okay, supermarket chain linking to X5. Here's X5, previously known as X5 Retail Group, and commonly known as X5, is Russia's largest food retailer. In 2012, the organisation of X5 Retail Group LLC was liquidated. In 2019, X5 Group LLC was opened. And on the research for X5, you can see it mentions the Perek stock brand, which we've just mentioned already. Just looking through this. So X5 on Companies House, here it is. X5 Limited comes up when you search X5 Group Companies House. Here's X5 Limited, and it links to the international government fraud you'll see from this address that was previously mentioned, 20 to 22 Wenlock Road. That then links into Companies Made Simple. And here it is on the incorporation. Companies Made Simple on their incorporation document. Within the company, you have David McCaskill, and he links to some interesting companies. Night Storm Limited. There's various Knights connections in relation to this, which very likely ties in with the Knights Templar and the Freemasons. You've got Monkey Freight Limited. And when you search that name, okay, David John McCaskill, you can see multiple records have been created for the same person, it appears. Okay, multiple records. So that, again, is another element of this fraud by our government. And you can see on the right that one of those records links to Transmove Limited. Or Trans companies, Transworld and Transmove. Certainly Transworld has featured multiple times and links in with Donald Trump again. Hopefully that will make sense. A bit of a long video, this one. But there you go. So supermarkets are all involved in this international government fraud. Take care. Bye-bye.